The other key stock that's also in focus is Bajaj Auto. Now, the sales momentum for September looks really robust. Total sales have jumped roughly 9% for the two-wheeler space, while the overall sales have been another strong momentum of 8 to 9% as well. We caught up with Rakesh Sharma, the executive director at Bajaj Auto, to break down the sales numbers of the last month and what he's currently seeing on the ground as well. Listen to what he had to say. Let me first start off with what you've seen essentially over the last 3 to 4 weeks, because it seems to be that a lot of purchases were planned post September 22nd. But even though with 8 to 9 days of sales, it's been essentially a whole month of sales for everyone, including yourself. Could you give us some perspective of how the last 8 to 9 days have been essentially for Navaratri? And is this the best Navaratri season, the best 9 days that you've seen over the last decade or so?
Good morning, Puneet, and best wishes to you all as well. Well, you stole my line. Absolutely. These 9 days have been, at least for us, the best ever. At least, my memory goes back 5 years, but I doubt if before 5 years we had a Navratri which was better than this. So you're absolutely right. This has been a very big Navratri, and but we must also consider the fact that for post the GST announcement, and as the news percolated into the country, there was holding back of purchases, and that suppressed demand has come back into the final days of September, which were the 9 days of Navratri. So it's a combination of the festive, it's a combination of the GST cut, as well as the part of the suppressed demand flowing into those 9 days. It's very difficult to separate out the impact at this stage with such short data ranges. But I can tell you that on the ground, there is a lot of positivity. Till July, August, were negatives for the industry. And year to date was also marginally negative for the industry. And we can see that thanks to the extra disposable income which our customers now have in their pocket, and more importantly, a slightly better view, a benign view of the future, and expectation of continued lower prices, continued lower inflation is changing the sort of mood into why not advance the purchase, why not purchase. Motorcycles is a discretionary purchase, and what happens is in difficult times, people stretch their ownership and say, why purchase now? But when they have a positive view, they start to move into saying that, why not do it now? So that's a very positive shift. And I must say, it also envelopes the three-wheeler side of it. Yeah. We have had a rocking quarter. For several quarters now, we've been growing. We have been doing more than 1 lakh per quarter of three-wheelers in domestic, and challenging capacity. So that's another aspect of the business which has also seen the benefit of the GST cut, the mood, the optimism, etc.
Most certainly, Mr. Sharma. So, whenever we've spoken to you, you mentioned about the guidance for the year as 6 to 8% of growth, and last year we were at the lower end of that. Is it too early to firstly revise this guidance as of now for the industry growth, as well as do you think that we might have a chance to be at the higher end of the guidance this time around?
Yeah, so when we started the year, indeed, that's exactly what we were thinking, that the industry should be at 6 to 8%, which was what, was the industry was in FY 24-25. And there was nothing to say that that it will be lower or much higher. But I guess that the inflationary pressures were getting to people, and we found the April to August period, actually, like I said, marginally negative. It was between -1 and +1 kind of a thing. This certainly should improve, and it gives us a good fighting chance for hitting that zone of 6 to 8%. But we will really have to wait for the dust to settle down once the festive frenzy is down. Fundamentally, it must have a positive outcome. The only thing which has to be watched out for is, will inflation come back? Because the fundamental improvement is that disposable income has gone up. People who were worried about inflation have now developed a positive view that prices are not going to be rising so much. So that's a good intangible benefit also. But if inflation comes back, or like I said earlier also, things like, the imposition of extra cost because we have to put an ABS on all types of two-wheelers,
Yeah.
those would mitigate the gains which the GST cut has provided. So we have to watch out for these couple of things over the next few months. If they don't, if they are controlled, then I certainly think that we have now got a better chance of hitting that 6 to 8%, which was seeming like a difficult thing
Right.
in July and August.
Fair point, Mr. Sharma. Just taking the point that you made actually on ABS, because we are anticipating at least a 3 to 4,000 rupee price increase once that notification comes in, unless whenever it gets delayed also, if it does at this point of time. Do you expect that this will be a big boost essentially for a lot of consumers to consider 125cc as a segment as well, barring a lot of other conditions, as you rightly said, that if inflation stays benign, that will be one other thing because of the increase in price of entry-level segment, and that could be beneficial to players like you amongst others?
Yes, I agree that even the GST cut is actually beneficial to the 125cc plus segment. What has been happening over the last 5 years, as you know, that there is a fundamental trend which is shifting, which is the customers are wanting to uptrade. If you see 5 years back, the 100cc segment was 55% of the industry. Today, it is 48% of the industry. Now, because of the GST cut, some of the better bikes, the 125cc plus bikes, have become more in reach. So we think that this fundamental trend will get reinforced and will manifest itself in a higher rate of growth for the 125cc plus segment. On to your point about ABS, I agree. When the sort of marginal impact of the ABS on a 125cc and on a 100cc, it's far much more on a 100cc, right? So people will think that, okay, why not move to 125cc? But I'm saying that for the industry as a whole, for the 125cc segment as well, the addition of cost will probably mitigate some of the gains of GST. So we have to look out for it, and we have to see whether it can be done in phases. There is, I think, the Ministry of Heavy Industries is considering these kind of points.
Got that, Mr. Sharma. Mr. Sharma, just one aspect of in this particular month, you've shown roughly a 5 to 6% growth in terms of the domestic demand, and that's a key trend because since November of 2024, we have seen very minimal or negative growth for you in the domestic demand specifically, while the export growth has been raging in the mid double digits to high double digits as well, about 18% growth in this month as well. So, do you expect that this could lead to a re-rating trigger in the domestic demand growth for you specifically, or do you feel that there are some white spaces that could be addressed with a much more cheaper or a lower variant of 125cc where you already have the Pulsar there? Could we see another launch in that space as well that could trigger both of these key aspects to trigger the demand for positive growth in domestic side?
Yes, so when we are analyzing, we've got data till September, we do see that we have now started to, on a sequential basis, gain some market share in our core area, which is the 125cc plus segment. But irrespective of the GST cuts, etc., we have certainly a very vibrant product program which is going to address different sub-segments in this important area. And we will see this unfolding, from November onwards. You will see that we will be putting in some new products and new variants, which will hopefully drive further share acquisition.
Last question, Mr. Sharma, from my side, largely on exports, because we've seen another 18% growth in this particular month. And if you see the momentum since May, actually has been very positive: 25, 22, 18, and 20% over the last 4 months, going backwards to May 25. Largely, are you seeing broad-based growth essentially in LATAM as well as Africa? And if you can provide some update on how Nigeria has done in this particular month.
Yes, we are seeing more or less broad-based growth in the industry. We monitor very, very closely the top 30 countries, which account for more than 80% of our sales. And I would say more than 80% of the industry are the 100-odd countries that we operate in. And most of these countries are in growth path. LATAM region has led the growth. What is more beneficial to us, besides this whole thing about the rising tide lifting all boats, is the fact that we have got great competitive positions in places like LATAM. We have had our highest ever sales in LATAM in Q2. And that's a reflection of not just the market growing, the industry growing, but also our competitive position in it. So we expect the same tempo to continue into Q3 also. And hopefully we should be able to improve our sales numbers in Q3. Nigeria has been sort of now steady at about, for us, retails of about 19, 20, 21,000 units per month. It's of course a far cry from the 50,000 units which we were doing. But you can see that we are now challenging getting to 185 plus, moving towards the 200,000 number, even with Nigeria almost half of what it was. So that gives you a sort of indication as to how well we are doing in some of the other markets. Nigeria's return to much high levels. It's I would say a gradual process, because the economy had got quite battered because of the devaluation, etc. But it is at least steady. The exchange rate has steadied, and sometimes the exchange rate the naira is actually appreciating. So at least some kind of equilibrium has come, and hopefully this will be the beginning of a climb back into better days for Nigeria.